coach. You're saying that you are a mindfulness coach, right? So for those that are watching, what does that actually mean? How can they say, right, okay, I think I need you because yes, I'm feeling that, or yes, I need that? How would you describe it?
So I think that, first of all, it's a feeling that you want to look a bit deeper. You want to spend a bit of time looking at maybe what isn't working for you and what you want to move towards. So I guess essentially it's for people that maybe are feeling stressed or anxious. And again, stress and anxiety, it's not about getting rid of the anxiety or getting rid of your stress. It's about coming up with tools and ways in which you can manage that stress and anxiety.
Right.
So it's not that it's a really bad thing. You know, anxiety is actually really helpful, and it's designed to help us in certain situations, and sometimes to motivate us to do certain things and to keep us alive, and I guess to keep us well and safe. So it's not about eliminating that and getting rid of that. It's about using that and kind of channeling that to help you move forward.
Right.
So I would say that for anyone that is feeling stressed or anxious or feels as though they are maybe a bit lost, and they want to get better clarity on what their goals are and what they want to achieve, and more importantly, their direction.
Right.
Because I think it can be quite hard when you're talking to, you know, I'm blessed, I've got a big family and lots of friends around me, and I've got lots of people that I can talk to, but they're not necessarily, they're not trained. And also I might open up and talk to them about a way that I'm feeling, or, you know, my anxiety or anything that's troubling me, but they will give their opinion and their advice based on
Right.
their life, you know,
Yes.
and kind of based on
How they've
their,
lived, they're kind of like life story goggles. In fact, we were speaking about this in one of my recent live interviews. My brain has gone to mush and I just literally can't remember who it was. I've been interviewing every single day, but basically the bottom line is that we spoke about how, you know, you seek advice from other people, right? It could be family, friends, and they will give you back feedback which is a little bit biased because it tends to be in accordance to what they've lived and what their belief system is and what their culture is and what their religion is. But
yeah,
the beauty about a coach, a life coach, a mindfulness coach, a happiness coach, is the fact that we sit on a chair that is completely unbiased, right? So you can
yeah.
speak to us exactly with how you're feeling, would you say?
Yeah, totally. That is it. It's a completely unique person who, you know, has no relation to you, has no ulterior motive, doesn't know you from Adam, doesn't know your past. You know, if I, it's funny because sometimes, and I've heard a lot of people say this, if I've got a big group of girlfriends, and sometimes when I am around them, like I've known them since I was I think 11, since secondary school, and sometimes when I'm around them I can revert back to that insecure 14-year-old, because that's, I guess, who I am around them. And then as you get older and you're around different people and you form different friendships and different relationships, you know, I almost will be a different, I will have a different kind of sense of myself when I'm in a working environment or around different people. So I guess it's that energy transference.
Right.
And when you're around certain groups of people, without realizing it, they might be transferring their energy and vice versa. So as you said, it's just that impartial ear, just to sit down, and that mirror at the end of the day that can just, you know, a completely neutral person that can just call you out, on
Absolutely.
that, you know, on the stuff that's troubling you.
You know, and it's very interesting what you're saying because, you know, we speak about this time and time again. And the fact is that we're all energy, right? Everything is energy. And there's good energy, there's negative energy. And you've got to be very protective of your energy, right? Like you say, anxiety is not a bad thing. People seem to think, anxiety, like, no, 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 no,
It's
it's terrible.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Right. And it is uncomfortable. But the thing is that anxiety comes in all shapes and forms, would you say? Like, for example, if I'm going to go and speak on stage, I'm going to have a little bit of butterflies. I'm going to be a little bit of anxious, anxiety. But the thing is that I need that, right? Because it means that I care, right? And it means that I need to get on stage and deliver a speech that will motivate and touch others. So basically, so that anxiety right there is a good thing because it's keeping me on track, right? So I guess, would you say that what we need to be able to identify is the triggers that happen within us that triggers anxiety, and what anxiety is good and what anxiety is stop, right?
Yeah.
So how do you go about, finding that out from your clients?
So I think there's two things there. I think that the kind of first thing is that, if anxiety is a normal part of your day-to-day life, I think when it becomes a problem, when you're really stressed, your body releases a hormone called cortisol.
Right.
And cortisol is what sends those stress signals to the brain. And when you've kind of got low, the odd a bit of cortisol or low levels of cortisol, it's fine, your body can handle it. The problem is when you've got a constant amount of low level of cortisol all the time, and that is when your brain becomes frazzled. You find it hard to, it affects certain parts of the brain, and you're unable to remember, you're unable to concentrate, you're unable to be productive. And it's literally because your brain has been swamped with this
Right.
cortisol.
Right.
So I think that it's looking at coming back to your values, what's important to you, your priorities, and looking at what is worthy of your time and worthy of your stress. We all are going to have the perfect life doesn't exist, and the stress-free life doesn't exist. It's literally not possible to have a stress-free life. And so I guess it's just looking at your priorities, what's important to you and what is worthy of that stress, and how maybe ways and tools in which you might be able to eliminate some stress. And then the other thing as well, because I spent quite a lot of time working, when I suffered from quite a lot of anxiety, I then spent loads of time analysing what my triggers were. And I kind of wrote this long list of all these vulnerabilities. For example, for things like me, sleep's a big one. So if I've had a really bad night's sleep, I can feel really grotty the next day. If I've made too many plans, constantly seeing people and doing different things, that can really trigger stress for me. Confrontation, things like that. And there's so many things out there that I've noticed can be a bit of a trigger. But then I also realized that by using the word trigger, I'm giving these things a lot more power over me than I need to give them.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, when you think of a trigger, you think of a gun, and you pull it, and then the bullet lands, and that kind of makes you feel a bit powerless. It's like it's in someone else's hands. The trigger is in someone else's hands. And I guess when I reframed my mind and I reframed my thoughts like that, I guess I kind of thought that these things, okay, they do affect my day-to-day life, but it's all in how you handle it. It's all in how you manage it. It's all about your mindset and reframing your mindset.
Wow. So, yeah, you're 100% correct. It's how you associate um, anxiety, stress, certain emotions, places with things, right? Like you said, a trigger, you think of a gun, it is so negative. And even just thinking of a gun, because I'm afraid of guns, right? It gives me anxiety just thinking about a gun and the trigger. So I'm here thinking, right, what's triggering me to get anxious? And then I'm putting more, it's like I'm looking for an anxiety episode, which is insane. But when you take control of your brain and think to yourself, right, how can I shift it into a positive state, right, then you're really working with yourself. And I think the art is having someone like you help people understand themselves, understand how their brain works, because I've always said knowledge is power. And the more you understand, like how you just explained the cortisol levels, I mean, I didn't even know that. That's fantastic. And when you start giving it a bit of science and scientifically explaining things, you kind of think, oh, okay, all right, okay, you know, this is calming me down. Tell me more. So how, you know, how can this work? But Georgia, you know, when you sent me your story, you know, you said that when you were younger, you really did suffer from a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And, you know, it got to the point where at times you were self-harming, you wrote in the story, which a lot of women will be able to resonate with what you said. So tell me a little bit about that. How did you when was the time that you said, right, enough is enough?
I think what's interesting about my journey, and you know, I am a mindfulness coach, but I am on my own journey, as we all are. And I think that you know, in terms of kind of mindfulness in that sense, it's I don't have kind of all the answers, and it's very much, I think, to do mindfulness justice, you have to really communicate with people that I'm living my own journey too. And
well, we're all human and we're all learning.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's where, you know, I've got the passion for what I do, because I'm living through it too. And I think there's, as I'm sure you can agree, there's a lot of people out there that may not necessarily be practicing what they preach. And you can read all of the books on mindfulness and coaching, but if you're not actually practicing it yourself and understanding it, then that can, you know, you can't really resonate or connect with your clients as much. But the thing with my journey was was self-harming when I was a teenager. And I think that was due to a lot of stress and anxiety, definitely a lot of anxiety, a lot of self-loathing, and a lot of self-doubt. But I kind of came out of that, you know, when you get to, I got to sort of 15, 16, got a boyfriend, got a job, you know, other things came in place, and I kind of got a lot of distractions. And that was great at the time, obviously, to kind of evolve and grow out of it. But I never really addressed those issues.
Right. Okay.
And the root of what was causing that, you know. So then as life progressed and it gets busier and you get more responsibilities, you just suppress. And
it's the story of of the majority of people are.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was the big eye opener for me. And that's why I think that, you know, these talking therapies are so important. It's so important to really address and look at your journey and how you're feeling in your story, because suppressing it will not work. You know, and obviously, you know, with what I do, it is very forward focused rather than looking back at your past. And that's why I'm a huge advocate of counselling and, you know, other therapies that are out there. But I think the turning point for me, it's interesting because I think about 4 years ago, and I think someone's commented and asked about, you know, panic attacks and stress and anxiety.
Yeah, good question. I just saw that. How does that fit in? Yes.
So, I mean, in all honesty, to answer your question, the change for me was, you know, I had this history. I'd built up a lot. I built up a lot of stress and anxiety, a lot of pressure, a lot of self-loathing, self-doubt, and a lot of pressure. And I think that all came to a halt, and I had my first ever panic attack. And I had never experienced anything like it before. You know, I didn't even really know what anxiety meant at the time. And I was going to lose everything. And it was I completely lost myself in who I was. And, you know, was completely shaken. I remember going to my parents and my parents' house and literally just spending, you know, a week just in bed, couldn't get out. It was what a lot of people don't understand that haven't experienced that is that anxiety and panic attacks
Sorry,
are
darling,
just.
I can't see your beautiful face. You look all blurry. It might be the
Oh, am I
reception.
blurry?
Can you move? Yeah, can you move the phone ever so slightly?
Has that worked?
No. Oh,
Technology.
I know
That
it happens all the time. Yeah, that's a bit better. We can
is
work
that
with it. Yes,
better?
yes,
Okay.
bingo.
Don't you just love technology?
Drives me mad, but I do love it.
um, yeah. So I think in you know in that place, I had I had never expected to be in that place. Obviously, it wasn't anything I had envisioned before, and it was so physically debilitating. And I went through a real, I went through about 3 months of genuinely believing that there was something physically wrong with me. I had MRI scans, blood tests, ultrasounds, antibiotics, everything you could think of, because I was in complete denial, and in my mind it was something physical. But I think that for me, that breakdown was my breakthrough. And I know, you
Right.
know, a few people have said that before, but that really resonates with me. Really, really does resonate with me. That, you know, sometimes I think you have to lose your senses to find yourself again. And that, you know, I'm not the same person that I was before. And I think I've just done a post on grief and how much grief there is within self-growth, because you're never actually going to be the person you were before when you're developing and, you know, with self-growth and that kind of thing. But I've been able to shape the person that I want to be, and I'm a lot happier than I was, say, 5 years ago before those panic attacks. So yeah, I kind of think that that was my turning point for me.
That's wonderful. You know, I can really relate with you, because when I was about 21, I experienced the same thing. Okay, I had a panic attack and I didn't understand it. I didn't know where it was coming from. I convinced myself that I had something wrong with my head, right? It's completely false, but this is what the panic attack did, right? So I went to the doctor and I was like, look, there's something not right with me. Okay, I think there's something wrong in my head. Something's growing, and you know, I don't feel right, and I'm really panicky and I'm nervous and I'm jittery all the time. Please help me. So the doctor at the time prescribed me diazepam, right? And it really, well, it helped me. No, it didn't really. I'll tell you why it didn't help me. It calmed me down and I
Mm-hmm.
felt very relaxed, but the diazepam had side effects, right? So there's a change of your saliva taste. Things can get kind of echoey. Now, of course, I hadn't read the side effects of diazepam. So
Yeah.
there's me trying to deal with a panic attack and thinking that there's something wrong with me. And then I've got this tablet now changing my taste in saliva, and I'm hearing, you know, things in echoing, and my voice sounds
Yeah.
weird and I'm panicking. I remember once I was in the cinema and I was like, hello, hello, hello. And my friend next to me going, are you all right? Why are you speaking to yourself? And I'm like, can you hear that echo? And they're like, no, baby, you need to go home. But honestly, it was really bad.
And it's scary. I mean, that
So
you know, that must
scary.
have, yeah, especially at such a young age. You know, I
But
mean, at any age, it's that kind of experience is scary, and
when
it's
you're younger, you lack understanding and knowledge, which is what makes it a little bit more scary than, for example, when you're a little bit older and you're more experienced, right?
yeah, yeah. You've got that. You've got. I think with age, you've got better self knowledge. You understand yourself a bit more, and maybe the way I look at it is that was the process for me. That was the process that I had to go through to understand a bit better, to understand myself a bit better, what it is I actually want. Because you know, you get stuck on that cycle of just doing something because you've always done it, or even worse, living for other people and just doing things because you think that that's the right thing to do. You know, I was in a job at the time, I was in a job that didn't fulfill me. It looked good on my CV, but it didn't actually fulfill me. And I think that's something that I read a book in the last few months called Intuitive Living, and it's all about
who's it by?
it's Pandora Paloma. So
Okay.
she's on Instagram. Check her out. She's amazing, really, really good. And she's all about kind of listening to your intuition. And I think coming through all of that, what I realized is that I need to, you know, we all need to listen to our intuition more. And, you know, we always talk about female intuition, and it's totally, you know, I think you have to start off with the small things, like listening, you know, and I know it might sound crazy, but this book's very much linked to eating and, you know, eating intuitively, but even listening to your body when you're full, and not forcing yourself to eat, or you know, vice versa, listening to your body when you're hungry, working out when you want to work out, and working out because you love your body, not because you hate your body.
Oh wow.
And all these different things, like really just listening to that intuition, and you know, what dreams are coming up for you, like what's in your subconscious mind. So like
I
I
love
started
that.
to keep, I know,
I love that. I love my dreams. In the
mm,
mornings I wake up, I'm like, did I remember my dream last night? Sometimes I don't, and sometimes I do. And when I do, they are fascinating. I'm going to
yeah.
tell you a dream that I had literally 2 nights ago, right? I was swimming, right, with dolphins. Then all of a sudden, these dolphins started chasing me, and they had like weird boils on them. And then the
Oh
sun
God.
came out from the sky and was like, don't worry, I'll save you. And then the sun blinded the
Oh,
dolphins, and the dolphins swam away.
that is lovely.
But what a
I feel like that's a really nice.
dream! What a dream, though. I mean, and I'm
Sorry,
totally
come back.
bonkers.
I feel like that's a really nice dream. I
I
feel
feel like it
like,
could be a story.
yeah, but do you think that dreams, there's more behind dreams and they mean something?
100%.
Yeah. So what do
I,
you think?
I find they guide me.
Yeah.
Totally guide me. That's why I want to listen to them. That's why I want to remember them in the morning, because in accordance to my dream, I can understand. And this a lot of Sigmund Freud comes into this, right? And that's being able to understand your subconscious and what your subconscious is trying to tell you, and also your intuition, like you said, because it's all very much combined. It's like that, you know, people say listen to your gut feeling. The other day we were saying listen to that little voice inside of you, your best friend, right? Listen to that positive. Everyone calls it different things, but you really, and I teach this in business coaching, right? Because if you want to run a business, right, you got to be your best friend, right? So you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself. And the thing is, why wouldn't you love yourself? There is no one in this world who is you. That's your
Yeah.
superpower. How
Yeah.
amazing is that? No one in this world is me. No one in this world is you, Georgia.
Yeah.
How incredible is that? And then we're going to have those moments that allow us to not love ourselves, but we're beautiful,
Mm, mm,
right?
mm. But then how do you, you know, obviously everyone gets those moments of self-doubt, don't they?
Oh, yes. And I get mine,
How
believe me.
how do you manage those?
So when I think that I can't do something, and I go into a spell of like, I am not what I think I am, I'm just not going to be successful. I don't even
Yeah.
know why I did these vision boards. I don't even know why I spend all this time thinking that I'm going to achieve X, Y, and Z. When I do that, I think to myself, right, stop. Do you know what I've got to do? I've got to counteract it. So what do? Right, I'm going to learn more. Okay, let me do something. Let me do something that is going to achieve a result in, let me get on the treadmill, or let me blare a song and listen to it and dance, or let me do an online course that I was trying to research before, and let me actually book it. It's like, it's basically swallowing the frog, right? It's when you get that, no,
Yes.
don't, swallow it. No, we don't want it, right? So you've
Yeah.
got to shift that negative energy, and actually, when you don't want to do something, right? Like, for example, don't want to go to the gym. Go to the gym. Go to the gym.
Yeah.
When your body's saying, and we'll get to the bit when you said you've got to understand when your body's actually asking for something good, right?
Yeah.
And when your body and mind is actually asking you something to be lazy, right?
Yeah.
That's when you have to really understand it, because if you become very in tune with your best friend, your inner voice, that gut feeling, you will know when you're kidding yourself, right? And you've got to be very honest and transparent with yourself. Honesty all the way.
Totally.
I don't want to go to the gym. I really don't want to go to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going right now. This second, I'm getting on that treadmill. And you got to do it, like, be dramatic. Do it with drama. You know, I'm going. It's the only way. But this is how I deal with it. You might deal with things differently. I don't know. What would you say?
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. And in terms of, you know, because that's something I've definitely struggled with. I've never been an active person. I used to cry at every single sports day since I've literally been about 6 years old. I hated them. Never been active. Hated all sports. All my friends are like tomboys. They're really good at football. They've loved football, you know, really like fit and everything.
Oh no.
And so but I know how beneficial physical activity is for your mental health. So I've always been quite envious of people that have had a sport that they enjoy. And I've like experimented with a few things, you know, as I've got older, like, do I like tennis? Do I like swimming? I don't even know. So kind of just try to explore a bit. But I totally hear you that sometimes it's the actual getting up, getting dressed and getting out that is the hardest part.
I mean, you know, it doesn't, I gave the example of the gym, right? Because it's something that we can all more or less relate to, right? Whether you hate it or you love it. But, you know, this formula works with anything, right? It's, if you're an author and you can't be bothered to write a book because you know, had a bit of a late night, you know, it's those moments of when that negative energy creeps in and is like, don't do it, stay in bed, don't do it, put a film on,
don't
go
even
to the
start
fridge,
it.
eat that donut, you want that donut. Right? No, I don't want the donut. Right, someone give me an apple. What I'm trying to say is counteract it. Even if you think that you feel a bit bananas is good. Who wants to be normal? You know, embrace your imperfections, embrace who you are. Like I said, no one is you. How amazing is that? You know, you're never going to please everyone. You're going to meet people that for no reason, they just don't like you, right? And you're going to meet people that the moment they lay their eyes on you, they're going to think you're the most amazing person in this world, right? So if you know, right, that this is the situation, why give an absolute shit? And I say that, I'm sorry that I have to use that word, but no, I don't give a shit. What you want to think of me, right, is totally up to you, because I am me, right? And I own it. I get upset, I cry, I could be jealous, I can be emotional, I can cry over the silliest things, right? But do you know what? I'm also really loving, and I'm really kind, and I'm really generous. And you know what? I can't sing, but I like to sing in the shower, right? So if you start putting all these things into perspective, why are you going to allow other people's energy or external sources to battle the journeys that we have to battle with ourselves anyway?
Exactly. So true. And I think that is so key what you said, that coming back to that mindfulness, you know, what we were saying before, that it's not about eliminating your anxiety and trying to get rid of your anxiety. And like what you were saying, so owning your story and owning your shit, totally. You know, like you said you get jealous, you get angry, you get upset, you cry. Those are all human emotions, and they are totally fine. And actually sometimes it's not, the jealousy isn't, or the anxiety isn't the problem, it's how you feel about the jealousy or the anxiety. And that is absolutely why I love mindfulness so much, because at the core of it, it's sitting in with your experience.
and genuine, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't kid a kidder. Like, we get it, right? We're not silly. That's why, you know, when certain people go on TV and they're on the limelight, you think, well, why, you know, do people not really like them? And it's because sometimes some people are not very genuine. So just be real. Who cares?
Authentic. Yeah, authenticity. But that is something that I'm learning to lean into as well. And I think, again, that is where going through that process of really looking at yourself and who you are and what's important to you, and having that coach by your side allows you to be more confident in yourself. And the most confident person isn't necessarily the loudest person in the room.
No.
But it's just the person that is okay to be vulnerable, okay to be authentic. You know, it's that authenticity that I feel like when I see it in other people, I just love it. That's what attracts me. You know, you're talking about energies and vibrations and that kind of thing. When I see that authenticity, I just love it.
You know, I've got to tell you something really interesting. I was once reading, I don't know if it was in a newspaper article or in a book, but anyway, it was that the Asian women run the household, right? And normally when you meet, you know, Asian women, they're very quiet, and they're, you know, they're very, very well mannered, and they're very silent, and you just think, wow, these, you know, they're so submissive, right? They're not submissive, right? They run the house, okay? They run the husband, okay? You know how they do it? Through control of themselves and their minds, right? They know when to pick their battles. They know when negative energy is unnecessary. They know when they have to be strong. And obviously that's a very big generalization, but it's just something that I came across that I wanted to give to you as an example. But it's interesting, right? That you don't have to be the loudest to be the strongest.
No, definitely not. And I think that sometimes, you know, looking at in the corporate world and in certain environments, I think sometimes women feel like they have to overcompensate. And you do, I know I've experienced it for sure, that there's this insecurity that, you know, in certain environments, we are living in a man's world in certain environments.
Yeah, we are.
And I think that it can be hard for females. And then that's when you see this real insecurity, is the only word I can think I can really use for it. And yeah, I think it's really about claiming that back and claiming your superpower back as a female. And that's a thing, you know, being sometimes my biggest issues with
Oh, I
feminism.
think I've lost you there. Are you back?
Am
Yeah,
I
you're
back?
back. You're back.
Sorry.
You're back. That's okay.
My biggest issue with feminism is I think some people have the misconception that being a feminist means being anti-men. And I think, you know, it's really about pulling the two together and working together, you know? So I think that's quite key as well.
Right. The thing is, you know, I've always been called, you know, I'm either a feminist or I'm manly, or, I mean, I've had it all, right?
Manly.
And manly, yes.
What?
In the way, yeah, not necessarily in the way how I look, in how I act in business, right? Because
Right.
you have to be a little bit aggressive, and you've got to be a bit boisterous, and you've got to be very shrewd, right? Because unfortunately, this world is very dog eat dog, and you have to first of all conduct business with the utmost integrity. Like, integrity is everything, who you are, your morals, and not to go against that, right? But there's other people out there in the world that unfortunately do not agree or understand what integrity is. So you've got to be able to have that kind of sixth sense to be able to pick it up, right? Because otherwise, if you don't, that it could be, they could really harm your company. And so therefore, you know, I'm like this, and so men don't like it, and they don't like to be challenged, especially not by a woman. You know, like, a woman is someone that you flirt with, right? A woman is someone that, you know, you go and have a few drinks with, or like, you know, you got to stay in your place. And although many men won't admit this, right, and I know again that I can't generalize, deep down it's true. And the higher I rise within the business world, the more I come across it. Okay. And I've had many different situations in my life of where guys have tried to slander me, and they've tried to bring me down because they feel so angry, yeah, that as a woman I can achieve perhaps a little bit more than some of these individuals. But you know what? Am I going to stop and cry about it? Am I going to allow this individual to put me down and to stop me from my tracks of being able to get my goals? Absolutely not. Why? Because I love myself and because I want to achieve what I want to achieve. I've written it down. I know what I want, and I'm not going to allow anyone to take that away from me. You have to be so protective of what it is that you want and you need, right? You deserve it. Okay. I don't care how old you are, what country you're in, what language you speak, you know, what your family dynamics are, whether you've lost a parent, whether you haven't, it doesn't matter, right? You deserve the best.
Yeah.
And no one is going to give that to you. The only person that is going to give it to you is you. You are the person in control, right? You can make yourself happy. You can make yourself cry, right? That's a lot of control and power, don't you think, that we have? So knowing that, why not get to know ourselves? Why not get a life coach or a mindfulness coach like yourself, or a happiness coach, and talk about it? You know, grow in confidence, demolish the fear, because fear paralyzes you.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, I like what you said, that you can make yourself laugh, you can make yourself cry. And actually, yeah, it's claiming that power back. It's you're the one that has the option. You know, again, coming back to those triggers, you allow things to affect you and or to make you vulnerable. And it's important to be aware of certain things, yes, and to look after, you know, sleep, diet, all the physical things around you. But yeah, totally, this is you, you know, it's that empowerment that nobody can make you feel a certain way unless you allow them to.
If you give them power. You see, if people make you feel a certain way, guess whose problem it is? It's their problem. They've got a problem. They're going through something, right? When you squeeze a lemon, you get lemon juice, right? So whatever you are, what's in you, and if you squeeze it, that's what's going to come out of you. So what I want to come out of me is love. That's what I want, right? And I am so far from perfect, like every single person in this world, right? I can really sometimes piss off my family members, and I've been known to say the wrong thing at the wrong time, you know, and I will continue to perhaps make these mistakes, and I will try my very hardest not to, but unfortunately we're all imperfect, right? And like I always say, tomorrow's not promised, and you never know when it's judgment day, as I like to say.
And
But
like you
one
said,
thing,
those imperfections make you unique. You know, that's your makeup, like that's your DNA, that's who you are. But so often we're taught to feel this shame, this like shame over the things, and you know, shame over something we said 5 years ago. Things still pop up in my mind, literally from about 10 years ago, a conversation that I had one lunchtime. And again, you know, very much like what you've said, it's about those thoughts are going to come up, whether you're a coach, whether you're into mindfulness, whatever it is, you're still going to get those thoughts pop up. But you have to, it's reframing, it's being aware of them and reframing. I was listening to Fern Cotton's podcast, Happy, and it was with Ruby Wax, who I know does a lot in terms of mental well-being as well. And she was saying that, you know, she would maybe receive like something on Instagram, a troll or something had said something negative. Previously, she would have gone into this downward spiral for about 2 days, felt really depressed, really negative. All these negative thoughts would come up. And then eventually she'd get herself out of it. And she said now those thoughts still arise. She still gets those thoughts, but she's able to work herself around them. So now they last for about an hour. She ruminates a bit. You know, she'll think over it for a bit, and yeah, those self-doubts will pop up. And then she has trained herself to manage them. You know, like you were saying, get up and move on and do something, counteract it, do
flip
something to
it.
counteract. Yeah, definitely. And so I think that's, you know, with anything, it's just looking at being aware. Everything starts with awareness.
Right. You know, I just saw in the comment box, someone asked, how do I control myself when I'm having a panic attack? Like, what do I do immediately? Let's see if I can find the actual question, but it's more or less along those lines.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, panic attacks are obviously, as we said before, very scary. And, you know, I guess the main thing that I would say is that everyone will have a different experience with panic attacks.
What's the best technique to use when you're having a panic attack? That's
When
it.
you're having a panic attack, I think that everyone will have different experiences with their panic attacks, and have different sensations and different symptoms. And you know, one thing that I would say, and you know, I'm not a trained doctor, I would say that if anyone is experiencing anything that makes them feel uncomfortable and any physical symptoms, that the best thing to do is to see their GP. You know, like you mentioned before, when you were 21, and you know, when I had my anxiety, you know, severe anxiety, I went to see my GP as well, and I think that's really important to get that help. But what I would say is, try not to fight it. It is totally okay. And you know, you almost, what I try and do is come up with a bit of a mantra. So, and this is something that you can, you know, say to yourself, you know, continuously throughout the day. Whatever it might be, whatever it works for you. Maybe it's just, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. For me, my password to get into like what's my laptop is I am peace. And so it'll be I am peace. And so the more I say that, the more I type that, then
I hope that isn't the password to your bank account, darling.
I
Otherwise,
might need to
everyone will be
change it
writing,
after
I
this.
am peace, Georgia.
Reset.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
But you know, that again, it's like tapping into that subconscious mind. Tapping into that subconscious mind. I am peace. And I think that whatever you you know, whatever you're experiencing at that time, whatever symptoms it might be, it's okay. And the more you fight it, the worse it's going to be. If you actually just, and this is where your mindfulness practice and your meditation practice come into it, because if you just sit into it and accept it rather than trying to fight it, often that will help with the symptoms and that will help ease it away.
I really agree with you, because just change the subject ever so slightly, but it still relates. I suffer from sleep paralysis, right? And sleep paralysis is basically when you get stuck in between REMs, right? So don't quote me on this, but you know, when you're about to fall asleep, you go into like zones 1, 2,
Yes.
3, and then deep sleep, which is 4, 5, right? And then when you wake up, it's the same thing but backwards. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, what happens with sleep paralysis is that you kind of get stuck between like 1 and 2 and 3. So when you're waking up, so what happens is that you feel like you're awake, right? That you're no longer asleep, but you are actually, in fact, still dreaming, right? It's very bizarre and very scary. And if you Google it, you know, people have done all these images to try and describe what sleep paralysis is. And normally it's very scary. It's like a negative kind of either energy or spirit is trying to like grab you, and it sits on you and you can't breathe and you start to panic, right? Honestly, what a horrendous position to be in. But I've had them for so long that I've managed to, when I know I'm having it, is actually say to myself, this isn't real. This isn't real. Wake up, wake up, wake up. You can wake up, right? And I'm like, wake up. Am I awake? And my mind is playing tricks on me, saying, no, you are awake. No, you are awake. But I know that there's things going on around me that can't be real. So I know how to like come out of it. Now that formula is very similar, but obviously in the conscious level when you're having a panic attack, right? So you've got to try somehow, and I know this is so difficult and it takes a lot of training and time and energy, but to say, right now you are worrying excessively over what? Break it down, Joanna. What are you worrying about so much? What's going to happen? What's going to happen this very second? Right? Is the world going to end? Right? Are you going to drop dead this very second because you're having this panic and fear? No, I'm not. Okay. Okay, so right, calm down. Right?
Everything is figure outable. Everything.
It really is. As in, every little baby step will take you to where you need to get to, right? So for example, if I was to take you to the bottom of a mountain and I say to you, right, you've got to get to the top of that, you're going to be like, how am I going to get there? But there's a trail, and slowly it might take you a day or 2 days or however long it takes, like with Mount Everest, and you can actually get to the top of that mountain. So I just think it's just a matter of breaking everything down into small little pieces so you can digest it, a little bit like food. You've got a big plate of food in front of you, you're not going to wolf it down in one go. I mean,
so true.
Some people do, and it's not very attractive. but but right, you've got to cut up your potato and cut up the chicken, and slowly you savor it, and it tastes good and you like it, so you go for the next cutting of the chicken.
Yeah,
right.
I love
And
that.
then by the end of it, you finish the plate and you think, I really enjoyed that meal. That was good. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's meal.
Yeah. And that is key, isn't it? Like enjoying each bit day by day, like enjoying the journey, not just I will be happy when I get there, I'll be happy when this happens. But hold on, you've wasted 5 years feeling anxious, tired, upset, hurt, betrayed. You need to enjoy and savor every day, and of course we're going to get good and bad days. Again, coming into that mindfulness is the acceptance. But I love that.
Yeah, because you've got to live in the present. That's happiness. You live in the future, that's anxiety. You live in the past, that's depression. You got to live in now. You got to enjoy it now. When my mum turns around and she asks me a question, there are moments where I'm like, oh, what? Why are you asking me a question? I'm really, really busy. What? And I think, hold on a second. I'm really, really busy because I'm thinking about the future, that I need to get something done. And no, hang on. I'm in the present. One day, she's not going to be here, or something could happen. Like I said, tomorrow's not promised. So tell me, what do you want to know? Slow it down. Slow it down. It's in your capacity. And do you know what happens? Something magical happens, right? You slow it down, you start enjoying every single moment, right? So savoring every single slice of that chicken. And what starts to happen is that you start becoming and feeling good, right? And all of a sudden, that next morning when your alarm goes and you've got to go to the gym, you're going to be like, I'm going to the gym. I'm not staying in bed. You kind of start taking control of your voices and putting them to one side, to say, no, you're not going to control me, because you know what? I'm happy. I'm owning it, right?
Yeah, it is that owning. It's that owning it, isn't it? And it's like really, really just, there's no other words for it. Just owning it, like owning your shit, owning your experience. And it's like day by day. I think another misconception is that people think that with these goals, it's just one huge big goal, and it's something that you might do, maybe occasionally or once a week or something. Actually, a lot of goals take daily dedication and daily consistency. And so it's the first thing to do is just implementing those small little changes in your day-to-day life. And I think sometimes that's where a lot of people struggle, that they think it's they need to implement these huge big goals, and they need to be massive and really big and really impress people. And I think it's just pulling it back and realizing the biggest changes happen when you implement small changes, when you implement small things on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. When I first started my first business, Monaco Interiors, I woke up one day and I had this vision, right? And I knew what I had to do. And I was so excited. I wanted it to be done in one day, right? I wanted to make the company, get the clients, get the results, and become this world success in one day. I mean, it had to be done because I could see it, right? And because I see it, I could feel it. And I was like, actually, that's not the reality. It's not going to happen in one day. And how long is this going to take? Well, the success and the art is in those small little movements, right? And one day you just wake up and you have a look and you think, wow, did I just do all that? Or you get this one call oh, hi, I saw you on this and I saw you on that, and I want you to do my home, da 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 da. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, all right, okay, let's do this. And they're like, yeah, I want you to do my home. And because they trust me. But how they trust me is because I've spent so long with all these small little movements and actions every day that it's created credibility, it's created experience, it's created for people to want to invest in me, because no one wants to just give their money away. I mean, you know, it takes time to make money. You know, the money doesn't just grow on trees, as my mum and my grandma would say. It does take time. So you've got to show people, hold on a second, I can give you your value back for that, right? I can make your life better, right? So giving is essential to happiness, right? Giving because you want to give, and giving a service, right? If you, for example, start, and I'll be teaching all of this in my masterclass, by the way, so sorry to just go offline for a second. My masterclass is on the 16th of May, Saturday at 2 p.m. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to give yourself time, and you have to be forgiving, right? You've got to be forgiving, and you've got to understand that, as the saying goes, what's the saying? Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
It wasn't. And you need to invest in yourself, right? And be of service to others. Okay. A lot of people get into business thinking, well, do you know what, I'm just going to make a buck or two here, right? And they give shit, right? And they give bad service. Well, eventually that will catch up on you. You have to give service from the heart, because you're going to make someone's life better. And that is honestly one of the biggest keys to not only business, but I think also in life, to be of service to others from the heart.
Yeah. And I think that, and it's interesting because that, what you said as well, is one of the key attitudes of mindfulness. Giving, just giving, being able to be present and giving, and even present in a conversation. And when you know, I've heard people say before as well that when you give, say whether it's money, time, energy, your hands open, and so then you're more likely to receive. Whereas when your hands closed and you know, you're refusing to give, then you've got a tight fist, you know, literally tight fist, and you're not as likely to be receiving. You know, you won't receive as much. So and I think that that's quite, and obviously you don't kind of give to receive, but it's amazing what can come out of that when, you know, whether it's self-confidence in yourself, because you're giving all of this out to other people, you can get so much back.
Absolutely. I just see we've got 1 minute and 38 seconds remaining, so we have to well, let me get to my last question and see if you can answer it within the space. If you had a magic wand and you can change one thing in the world, what would it be?
I think it would be to make people slow down more, which obviously we're doing at the moment. Some of us are doing at the moment, and to make people kinder to themselves and kinder to other people. I think that's what, if I had a magic wand, it would be to sprinkle kindness over to a lot more people.
Beautiful. Georgia, thank you so much for your time.